I guess in the beginning, I still had big ambitions, but I never thought that I would essentially win like gold in the Olympics for the biggest burns recovery in the world. Like, I mean, I never thought that I would look like Dana again.
It's not normally in the average careers day at school, is it?
Oh, no. But no, it's not. I hoped I would look like Dana. I hoped that I would have functionality. I never knew to, but I didn't give up. That's an important lesson we need to teach people. Like, because I got to a certain place and I was like, wow, I was really happy with this. But then you reassess, you look like, I never thought that I would look like this again. I never thought I'd become an international author and a speaker, and I never thought I'd be just finishing my 3rd degree, like in science, my master's in science. Who am I?
G'day, Shawnee. How are you, mate? Another week, another episode of The Few during COVID chaos. How are you, mate?
Fantastic, mate. Stuck up here or not being able to get back into Queensland if I leave. But other than that, it's all good.
Well, you're not missing much down in New South Wales, mate. It's been absolutely freezing. And look, I'll tell you what, today's guest is one that it almost brought me to tears. And I think there's probably no time in my life or generation where the story we're going to explore today doesn't bring perspective to where we are. I think one of the challenges, and particularly in the first world issues that we deal with today and in COVID, and people being inconvenienced by the lack of bog roll in their house, I think that people really need to be able to understand how life can be, what some of the challenges life can throw up, and how lucky we are that the biggest problem we have is whether there's enough pasta or a toilet paper in the supermarket. Our guest today, my partner, who's a very sensitive person, vegan, just loves humanity, is so excited by the fact that I get this opportunity to have this conversation today. This person has motivated her through her life, has helped her connect with what the concept of beauty is as a woman. So many touch points, and as a guy, there's probably areas of this I can't even begin to imagine. But I've been given some points and some tips to take this conversation. So with no further ado, I would love to introduce Dana Vulin to today's program. Dana, thank you so much for the opportunity to have a conversation with you today, and welcome to The Few.
Hi, thanks for having me. But I don't know who Dana Vulin is. I'm Dana Vulin.
Yeah, we literally had this conversation before we started the show.
She sounds nice, though. She sounds nice.
How to pronounce people's names with a name like Bakusis, how often it gets murdered, and even people I know. It's Bakusis on a Monday, Bakakis on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And having lived in the UK, it's always a challenge. So I do apologise, Dana. I've got utmost empathy for having
Oh, don't say so. That's fine.
Any part of your name murdered and mangled. So, Dana, tell us a little bit about life for you. Tell us about how you feel today and whether or not you're living what you believe is your purpose in life.
Oh, how I feel today? Are we talking externally or internally?
Both. Just getting out of bed, feeling as though you're living a life that maybe wasn't a life that was planned or expected, but in terms of what we're given today, what tools we have to work with, the pros and cons that life gave us. Do you feel like you're making the most of it and living the purpose that the universe ordained for you, even if it wasn't something that you're prepared for?
Absolutely. I feel like I'm a woman that I was always meant to be, and then some. I sometimes wake up and I pinch myself that my life is the way it is now versus the nightmare I was living for so many years. I am just about finished my 3rd degree at uni, my master's in science. I literally had my last class ever yesterday.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. And that's because I would like to specialize in disfigurement and cosmetics so I can further help survivors such as myself. And I am fit and I give back and I work hard for what you see on the outside, but I also work hard for what I have on the inside. I'm grateful for everything I have. I'm a version of myself that I could never understand. Like I got like pretty much straight A's at school, and I got like medallions of academic excellence. And at university, in my first degree, I won like this international competition thing, and I was always told, you're wasting your potential, wasting your potential. This is prior to my injury, of course, in 2012, and I never quite understood that until I became who I am now.
That's
Because
a great segue, Dana, because what I guess we all really want to understand and develop an appreciation of is what happened in your life and in your journey that changed everything.
okay, um, so I'm going to give you the very basic version. But in 2012, February 16th, a woman and a male broke into my house, doused me in methylated spirits, and set me on fire. So that would be the beginning of literally living hell on earth. I remember, I don't know if you have it over East, but we have constable care when you're young. They come to school and teach you first aid, and they
Mhm.
teach you stop, drop, and roll. And I remember immediately, as soon as I was on fire, she had doused me in methylated spirits and set me ablaze. I remember thinking emergency, and like emergency brain kicked in, and I stopped, dropped, and rolled. And as I stopped, dropped, and rolled, whilst I was rolling, I could hear them laughing at me, and they fled through the back, leaving me to burn alive. And here I am thinking that I'm doing the right thing, but I get up from burning alive, and what Constable Care forgot to tell us was, with a chemical burn, you don't stop, drop, and roll, you go straight to water. And in fact, I actually got up and I spread the fire 10 times worse. I literally looked like that guy from Fantastic Four. There was just flames everywhere, flames as far as you could see. And I remember screaming for help so loud. I used to live in a high-rise building, that the man in the whole high-rise next door in another building heard me scream and came to my rescue, essentially. Um, and he said to me, sweetheart, blah, 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 my name's Dennis, let's get you in the shower. And I so ignorantly remember saying, are you sure? Are you sure? Like, I heard if you go underwater, you scarlet. Little did I know, but he was so calm and sure, and his eyes were even confident and reassuring. And so I went in the shower, and I remember like the water was on cool, and it was dropping like down on my hands and face, and no high pressure, nothing, but every little drop felt like acid burning into me. And I was like, my hands, my face. And I've got to give props here, because the ambulance and the fireys were called. The ambulance got to my house 2 minutes from that time of the call, and then 4 minutes after that, I was at the hospital. So 6 minutes from time of call, I still died on the second and third night. It resulted in 64% full thickness burns um, from my waist up, circumferentially, face, everything. Um, I left me completely disabled. I actually didn't even look like a human being. I basically was an in and out patient for 4 years and 10 months. I got cervical cancer at the same time. Then Australians were amazing. They donated heaps of money to me. And then the charity owner stole all my money and used it. Then she went to jail. And then I had a super fan stalk me for years, who also faced the law. And that's the very short of it. It's been a
Well,
wicked run.
that's a lot of bad shit happening in a small amount of life there. I, one of the things I guess, Dana, is in the few is we're probably trying to find some insights that aren't necessarily mainstream and appeal to a smaller group of people that really want to try and deeply understand things. And how could you possibly explain to someone what that experience was like? I mean, it is incomprehensible,
Horrific. Mm.
the pain and the confusion and
You know, often I'm asked, like, oh my God, do you remember burning alive? It must have hurt so bad. And I'm like, genuinely, it was a tickle in comparison to the aftermath. And I remember I was conscious burning alive. That was the least pain I would feel for years and years and years. Um, but yeah, you know, when you ask somebody, like everyone's had this conversation, what's your biggest fear of how, like the worst way you want to die? And everyone says burning alive for sure. I've lived that fear. And methylated spirits burns 10 times quicker than petrol, so just absolutely annihilated me. And I don't know if you've ever seen my befores or afters, but the thing with my burn was, well, in the beginning, my sister and I, we researched so hard to find any befores and afters, and actually what we had discovered was I pretty much had the worst burns and scarring I'd ever even seen ever.
Oh, I cannot believe it. Unbelievable. And the imagery is very confronting on your website.
And that's the choir girl photos.
And that's, I ex-military for 11 years, and part of being in the military and going into combat environments is they show you lots of photos of bad things so you're aware of it. So if you see it in real life, it's not quite as shocking. And to be honest, a lot of that imagery is of people that didn't survive. And immediately I was, and that's, as you said, the choir girl ones, I'm looking at these photos and thinking that is worse than what I saw when I was being conditioned to go into combat.
It's literally, my surgeons are like, that's the worst scarring like we've ever seen. And I've got some of the world's best surgeons. I didn't look like a human. And the thing is, I didn't survive. I died the second night, I died the third night, and I died 9 months later. But my spirit didn't die.
Yeah, I was gonna actually ask that question, Dana. That clearly you needed to still be here for some reason. There was still something else that you needed to do. But what do you feel going through? You know, that as you said, the first part wasn't the bad bit; it was the aftermath. That years of pain and agony that I can't even start to possibly imagine, of chronic, pain and mental and emotional anguish from, how you actually look and feel and all of that stuff. I cannot possibly fathom. So I can't even try to. But what was that internal drive? What was that internal motivator that actually got you to keep going and get up the next day and do it again, get up the next day and push through? What that takes some intense amount of deep strength that's come from somewhere.
Well, it was a few things. So it sounds so basic, but ever since year 5, I've always kept my promises. Okay. Like it's something so stupid, but like my family, friends,
Well,
everyone
that's a
knows me.
rarity these days. Yeah.
Pardon?
That's a rarity in this
No,
day and age.
it's like I am, that's how I am. And it's so weird, but okay, I keep my promises. And in the beginning, after I had a realization of how bad this was, like I'd hear it all over the media. What's she going to be now? She's got no face. She's in a pretty, like she's got nothing else going for her. That really pissed me off because like I'd done 2 degrees before that. I worked hard to look the way I did then, which means I was going to have to work harder. But way more importantly, when I got burnt, so did my entire family. Okay, I was so disabled for years that I could not do anything. Like my arms froze up like this, my chest froze to like fused to my chin fused to my chest. I was stuck like this. I couldn't eat myself. My mouth burnt into like a tiny little bum hole. I couldn't feed myself, go to the toilet, shower myself, nothing. And my sister promised me I'd never kill myself. I promised, Dana, you promised you'll never kill yourself. I couldn't anyway. I was so disabled, but I was like, I promise. But how dare I not fight for someone who was fighting so hard for me? Like when I got burnt, my family got burnt. I mean, their lives completely stopped. They sacrificed so much for me. So on those days when it was hard, I fought for them. I learned many, many years ago not to hate. I've never harbored hate. I feel like hate is really powerful and toxic and all-consuming. So I'm really glad I learned that lesson when I was a kid, because somebody I didn't know and I did nothing to burnt me alive and left me to die, and it changed my entire life and it changed my family's life. And yes, that angers me, but instead of using that all-encompassing energy to hate someone, I used it to heal. I promised my family I wasn't going to kill myself. So here's the reality: we are all alive, but most of us aren't alive and living. I said I was not going to die, so why would I wake up every day, because I'm going to, because I promised I won't kill myself, and be like a negative Nancy and have a crappy life versus trying and having a good life? Like these were my options. I was going to live because I kept that promise, so I may as well fight. And I don't harbor hate, but the only revenge I ever wanted was success. And I was like doing that in a big way. I think that was a big FU to the person that did that to me, if I'm completely brutally honest. But then it's like after the media and stuff, I was like getting annihilated in the media for years, and I didn't talk to them, and I literally hid from the media because everyone was so thirsty to get a photo of me with my mask or my disfigured face. And I like, which called the media police, all camped outside my mum's house, my dad's house, my sister's house over here for years, to just get a glimpse of how mutated I was. But I also didn't talk to the media because I wanted to.
How did that make you feel, Dana? How did that make you feel when that was happening?
Disgusted. So I'm already going through the worst thing someone can go through. Then I get cancer, and they're all just like vultures. But it's like I feel I'm underestimated, and that was their biggest. That they underestimated me. I managed to hide from them till the trial, and I also did want to make the trial as appeal proof and as like unbiased and all that as possible, because it's a really hard process. You don't want to go through it again. But then after that, it was still happening. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to grab these bull by the horns and I'm going to ride it. So I really took control of my own life, and I took control of the media and used them instead of having them exploit me. But inevitably, what happened was I decided to take my mask off. I've got to tell my story, but I took my mask off after wearing that mask for 2 years and 10 months for the first time, genuinely, on the Sunday night program. And I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna own my, like, rock my scars. I'm gonna make this bird my bitch. I'm gonna own it. And then from that point, I just had thousands of burns people from around the world, survivors or people who've had scars from domestic violence or cancer, sending me selfies of themselves, like their dresses, like, I'm just gonna make burns my bitch, own it. And just like the amount of empowerment I gave other survivors. And because even at that stage, I remember watching back the show, I was like, whoa, I've made such a transformation. And then I watched it when it come out, I was like, oh yuck, I'm still a minger. Like, I've never had, like, I don't have fake hair, I'm not wearing fake lashes, I've never had like plastic surgery to look like everyone else. That's a huge misconception. I actually have only had grafts to look like Dana again. And that's all I ever wanted. I think we have that God-given birthright to look like our family. We deserve it. But I mean, it took so much. I wore a garment for 3 years, a mask for 2 years and 10 months. I slept sitting up on a crucifix for 3 years with arm splints, wrist splints, elbow splints, palm splints, neck brace, mouth splint. I've had my right leg grafted completely 5 full times, my left leg grafted completely 6 full times, and that's my body. My groin they've taken for my neck, and my hips are my armpits and some of my actual arms. They shaved my entire skull to graft my entire face. Had comedoplasty, so many neck releases, 5 sets of braces, 2 jaw expanders, and like, I have a vacuum on my back right now. It's 8.5 years down the track, and I'm still having surgeries. And I do a lot of firsts because I guinea pig myself for heaps of shit. But it was after that segment that it really got me the ball rolling, because like I was saying, I was looking for befores and afters, and I realized there were none. I had some of the worst scarring I'd seen. But it kind of gave me I got to be that before and after. I am what I desperately needed. And there's no other word for it than desperate, guys. I was desperate.
Yep.
And I hate to be a thirsty mole, but I was desperate. And now I get to be that beacon of hope for survivors who are burned. Look, it's possible.
Dana, how do you do it? How can you help everyone in terms of having to deal with something every single day that revisits you every single day, going into surgery? I mean, I have without making a comparison, because I can connect with you in a certain way. I have a genetic disorder that is a arthritic condition. So I'm always getting needles and poked, and it never goes away, and it's never going to go away. And often, you know, I look for sources of inspiration, which is like, wind your head in. This is absolutely nothing. But sometimes I can't help myself and feel a bit sorry for myself.
And that's natural. You know, that's natural.
So, but how do you, I would imagine there are times when that feeling is powerful for you as well. How do you just keep going and overcoming those days where it feels really bad?
First of all, I think it's important to feel your feelings. So like when I get upset, I recluse and I'll have a couple of days for myself, and then I'm like, I'm over it now, sick of feeling sorry for myself, I'll get back up. I think you need to feel your feelings, and it's okay to feel upset. But on the other hand, I smile, I'm happy because I'm so grateful we're living in a first world country. I'm grateful that the ambulance got there. I'm grateful for the help, all the surgeries. Um, I feel like a sense of responsibility on my shoulders at this stage because of the recovery I made. And like, if you look on my social media and stuff, I'm not on there being like, hey, I'm sexy. It's like, hey, here's a truth bomb. This is what I look like before. This is what I look like now. This is what works. This is what doesn't. So I feel like almost a sense of responsibility to help people who are going to get injured or have been injured. And other times I just like, I've got one life. So why wouldn't I want to be the best version of myself in this lifetime? And in terms of pain, like going through the pain all the time, like when I decided, yeah, I'm going to live and blah, 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 just to go through a burn on its own, which is the grass, is, like I said, there's no words. I can't explain it, guys. It's evil. It'd have been way more humane, way more kind, way more easy for me to have died.
Mm.
Way, way, way. It was disgustingly cruel on your mind, your body, your soul, your family. But I kind of accepted that it was going to be painful. But I then made a decision that I wanted to make a recovery like no one else. They told me never expect to look like Dana again. I'd never hold a pen again. But I knew to do anything or to get anywhere, I would have to go through more pain. So it's something that I accepted to get to a level where I wanted to go. It's all about sacrifice, working hard, making the plan, and following through with it, like choices. I made a choice and I stuck to it, and I knew what it was going to cost. But yeah.
And that cost, the reward based on that cost. Now that you have got to a large part of the other side, obviously, as you said, there's still stuff that you'll need to be doing ongoing. But as you said, you had this goal of, I want to get to here. Now that you're there or pretty close to that, how does that feel knowing that you actually put in the hard yards, you did the work, and you're now there? Like, I mean, a lot of people think that whole overnight success thing, that people just suddenly become a success or they achieve this, that, and the other. But there's also the statement, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. And so how does that relate to your journey and where you are now versus where you were aspiring to be?
So, I mean, I guess in the beginning, I still had big ambitions, but I never thought that I would essentially win like gold in the Olympics for the biggest burns recovery in the world. Like, I mean, I never thought that I would look like Dana again.
It's
Like,
not normally in the average careers day at school, is it?
well, no, but no, it's not. I hoped I would look like Dana. I hoped that I would have functionality. I never knew to, but I didn't give up. That's an important lesson we need to teach people. Like, because I got to a certain place and I was like, wow, I was really happy with this. But then you reassess, you look like, I never thought that I would look like this again. I never thought I'd become an international author and a speaker. And I never thought I'd be just finishing my third degree, like in science, my master's in science. Who am I? But
You're a legend. That's who you are.
pretty cool,
Like
pretty cool.
because there's a million excuses. There's a million reasons to not be that
Oh,
person. You've
and
got
I'd have
more
been
excuse than
forgiven
anyone
for
on the
being
planet.
bitter. And I forget, like, I'd be forgiven for being bitter. I'd be forgiven for giving up hope. Because I guess if you're a listener now, listening to this and you haven't actually seen my befores and afters and you're seeing me now, it's really hard for you to comprehend how disfigured I was. Or that's even a human being. So I feel really proud. I feel really privileged for the support network I have. This is not a solo thing. This was my doctors, the surgeons, the nurses, the physios, family, friends. This was a huge team effort. And it was like, guys, think about when you were 25 to 30, okay? Every time you smiled, every time you went to the toilet on your own, you went to a restaurant, saw a movie, had a girlfriend, kissed somebody, got to put your clothes on by yourself, left the house. I lived at the hospital. I physically couldn't smile. I couldn't even wipe my own ass. Like, I sacrificed so much. I mean, I worked on recovering whilst I was sleeping and whilst I was awake. And I think that this is what people don't understand. Like, I sacrificed and I worked more than I can ever express in words, in actions. I gave up a lot to get my life back. And I think that that's what people don't understand. It's not just my life back to be an author, to go to uni. Like, you do have to sacrifice, something's got to give. And now, like, people are like, oh, your life's so good, you got this, you got that. But I missed out on prime years of
Oh,
life.
Absolutely. And your book title is, I think it says it all. It's worth fighting for. And that's the theme that I'm hearing in this conversation, this discussion, is that you found something that was worth fighting for. And it was to regain, by what I'm hearing too, is your identity back. Like, but a new version of that identity, because of the challenges you went through. You had no choice but to get stronger emotionally, mentally, recuperate yourself physically on all areas, rebuild yourself into this now present amazing, energetically, physically, everything, how you show up now versus, as you said, what happened 8 years ago was just, it's just, there's no comparison. And I have seen, again, you said that the lesser photos, but yeah, those that and so even that in itself is like, holy crap! It's just something that you can't wish on your worst enemy. Like, it's.
I had wounds that didn't close for 4 years. I just I don't think people truly comprehend the fight.
I don't think you could. I think you can do your best, but you never ever will. Dana, one of the things that comes across very strong in this conversation is you were not a passive participant in your journey here. You did not hand over to doctors. You did not. You clearly, you do your own homework. You do your research. You are owning your recovery. Is that true? It feels that way. Is that
yeah.
how?
My surgeon says to me, I can tell you the difference between you and any other patient. You are one track mind, and there's nothing that can stop you. Sometimes I felt like my sister and we researched our eyes were going to bleed. Okay. And I'd go to my surgeons with the most ridiculous things. And I'd be like, why don't we try this? Because, the science behind blah, 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 blah. So essentially this would make sense. And I was so mangled that I really had nothing else to lose. I tried ooga booga crap. I tried like stuff, proper science, anything like hokey pokey, like anything. I did it. I tried it. But I tell you what, something didn't work. Something's made me worse. But at the end of the day, right, there's something to be said about like a peace and a confidence you have in yourself that I cannot look back and go, I wish I tried this. I wish I tried that. Or what if I left? There was no stone unturned. And in fact, I found new stones and rocks and boulders, and I tried those as well. You have to be your biggest advocate. And also I had nothing to lose. I was so deformed. I could physically not get any more deformed. I was just a mutant. And so, yeah, there was that. I was my own advocate. You've got to make noise. You've got to push. You've got to learn. You are in control of your own destiny to an extent. But, and again, acceptance. Like I know that, I'll always have scarring, but to what extent is up to me. And I was always like wild and a bit like before my burn. So I feel like now I'm just as unique on the outside as I am on the inside. Like they match up good. But
a beautiful way to look at it. And
well, you have to.
We have these conversations with many people about their life experience and how resilient they are, and they almost feel all glib because no one applies those tools like resilience and self-assurance and self-advocacy in a way that is so personal and so obvious. It's literally, you're the person that had their life on the line, literally on the line, has died for the lessons that you have learned that people can apply in any aspect of their life. If there ever was a person whose advice you would listen to right now and forever, it would be you, Dana.
Thank you. And I've applied it to my uni life, my business life, my speaking life. You've got to work hard. You've got to make choices and stick to them. But and also you've got to look for the positives. Like, yes, guys, I get it. What happened was horrible. But also, I don't look backwards, because if you look backwards, you get a sore neck and you only go backwards. The only time I look backwards is to reassess and see how far it comes, because sometimes you need to keep yourself in check that, hey man, I've done really well, because everyone has a down day. But also looking at the positives, like I will never age. So as my scars progress, like the tightening, I just get tighter and tighter. I'll never have jowls. I'll never get bat wings. I'll never wrinkles.
Oh, there's an
I'm like,
upside for you.
Stephanie, I'll look like this. So you have to look at the pros. I'll be tight forever. I'm like, okay, if I have to. So that's like not worth getting burnt over for anyone listening.
I was going to say, well,
Talk about the glass half full philosophy and not the glass half empty.
Well, there you go.
Incredible. It's incredible. So if so clearly there was so many lessons that you would have learned and picked up. And what are some of the key ones you lead with when you were out speaking and engaging with people to endeavor to share your story to help give them some inspiration if it's people going through challenges, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, whatever they are, because I think it relates across all of it. But what are those key things that you've identified that you love to share and impart to other people as well?
I always say, so simplistic, like simple choices. Okay, you make a choice and you actually follow it through. You do the work, you do all the small to-do lists, which give you more to-do lists, but you do it, because it's not going to happen if you just wish. Definitely choices. Make a choice and stick to it. Surround yourself with good people, because it's important. It really, really, really is important, because when shit hits the fan, they're there for you. And work hard. Like, it's resilience isn't you've had a bad day, then you can get back up. Resilience is like, well, it's part of that, but it's keep on going. It's working hard. It's all encompassing, it's learning, empowering yourself. These things are so important. And obviously I apply this to all my business models as well. Like, you need to learn where you want to go, what you want to do, and make and plan active steps to get there. But then you have to follow through with your choices. I think that's really important. And guess what? Things don't always work. And sometimes doors are shut in your face and you're set back, but that doesn't mean there are no more doors that don't open for you, or no more opportunities. And sometimes you just got to make them yourself. And like I say this because I'm talking personally and business developmentally. You really need to be your biggest advocate. You become your biggest advocate, and say yes to as many opportunities as you can, but also no to things that don't align with your brand, that you don't feel ethically or comfortable with. Sometimes you ask for an opportunity and it's like, oh, this is good, but something inside you doesn't sit right. Listen to yourself. Be on your brand, because we don't want to be a sellout. There are so many sellouts out there. Let's be real. So like I said, I'm not on the gram or on social media being like, yo, what's up? Look at me. I'm like, it's like, here's a dose of reality. Here's the before and after. Here's some hope. Here's what
it's
works.
A refreshing change too, just to hear that. It's like there's too much of the superficial. What do they say? Instagram is just the good side of life and not the backside.
Instagram models. Could you imagine how many people wouldn't be models if they weren't gram?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah. And we'll talk about this the other day, that one of the problems in the world today is there's really nothing to worry about. So we worry about everything. There's just the perspective is completely gone. I think, and that's without sounding like a fuddy-duddy.
Nah, you're right. And we live in a first world country, guys. How lucky we are.
Yeah,
Unbelievably. So, Dana, what does the future hold? What's your? I mean, before your this horrific experience, and the version of you then, and the version of you now, and the version of you in the future, is there an alignment there? Is there a fundamental change? Because I'd imagine you were always a positive person anyway. You're always hardworking. You're always had a future mapped out for yourself. Do you feel that it was your inherent you, your spiritual self, your mental self, your physical self? Do you feel that that's really hasn't changed, or did you have these epiphanies?
I feel that it hasn't changed. My auntie says, you're all so unique in a way that I feel like you were born knowing who you are. And I've always had this Dana sparkle in my eye. And it sounds really like weird, but I just think that sparkle now is for what I'm doing. So I have paved the way for survivors and people with disfigurements and giving people hope. But more to that, I am the career I thought I was going to be on before my injury is definitely not the career the path, the way that I'm on now. But the pathway I'm on now is nothing I ever dreamed of. I'm just finishing my master's in science. I'm going to specialize in cosmetics and disfigurement so I can help people even further. So what I want to do is everyone, so like, victims of domestic violence, cancer, women have had double mastectomies. I want to do a paramedical course as well so I can tattoo their nipples on, pigment loss, hairlines. If you're born with birth deficits and defects, I want to be able to specialize in all of that, and just cosmetics. So if you just want to come to me and look glam, head on my way. But
I'll definitely put you on my glam dial-out list.
Come on over. There's actually no specialists for disfigurement in one place in all of Australia. I've traveled the world in Australia for my treatments, and I've learned a lot from the best. And who are better else to be an advocate and actually physically do it to survivors and to help them than more?
Yeah, and I think you could potentially, not you, but in a horrific situation, you could potentially go inwards versus turning it into something that you're now just going, I'm open, I'm here to share, I'm here to serve, I'm here to, and this is again a theme that we see in all these conversations of as people progress and mature, and whether it's whatever their paradigm and their perspective and their experiences, and we all get molded differently. But it seems to be that we all go through this point as we're getting to where we really feel an authentic version of ourselves, that it starts to just reflect out, and it's about service and it's about helping others.
That's right, like adding value and making your life full of purpose. But not just that, like people want to know, oh, he's so confident, like I'm confident because giving back feels good. Like having purpose feels good, having drive, doing the work, accomplishing. Yeah, I mean, it sucks. Like, don't get me wrong, I hate sitting at that computer for like 12 hours a day doing assignments. It's the bane of my existence. I'm like, I did not fight so hard to
that's the thing I find most amazing, that you can actually do that.
That'll have no relevance to anything of my degree. But then now I'm at the end of it, and I'm just like, it's like
your why was bigger than your why was bigger, wasn't it, than the 12-hour assignments. It was, of course. It sucks, but I'm not going to not do it. I'll still not like it, but I'm going to keep doing it.
I put it out there. I said I'm going to do it, so I have to do it. Otherwise, I feel like I look like a knob. I ain't about that life.
You've got to put it out there. That's so true.
When people are like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I give them side eye, I don't ever want to get side eye.
No one wants to be a gunner. Hey, Sean, can I steal the last question this time?
Go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I really want to. Dana, I've got a 10-year-old daughter, and starting to get into that phase of the Instagram and the friend group, and you can see the pressure, that this incredible pressure that society, the television that they watch, everything about it. What is the one thing we normally say? Hey, what's the one thing you would tell yourself as a child about your life? What is the one thing that you would tell my daughter in terms of living a life of purpose, and to help her understand the context of this garbage relative to what life can be?
Garbage, yeah. First of all, I always say, I really have never seen, and I go out a lot, never seen an Instagram model that looks like they do on Instagram out. So reality. But not to say there's none, I just haven't. But I would tell her, everybody is going to age and get old and their looks will fade. Don't rely on that. I will tell her, I knew my worth before I was injured, and I would hope that no one would ever lose their life at face, functionality, independence, everything in a second. But if you were to, I still had confidence within myself because I made the right choices. I surrounded myself with the right people. I worked hard to be who I was, and I educated myself, always empowering myself prior to my injury. And I think education is so important. When I say education, I don't just mean go to university, get a degree. I mean, educate yourself about life and knowledge and what makes you feel good as a person. Tell her, don't look on the outside, look on the inside, try things, and what makes you feel good, what lights you up on the inside. And then go with that, like run with your passions, because the outside is nothing. Like I said, giving back and like seeing the hope I give strangers, and that fuels the fire on the inside of me. If you close your eyes and you don't focus on the aesthetics, what makes her feel good?
Incredible.
Yeah, it's you hear words like that, but when you say them, they like smack you in the face like a massive fist. It's very powerful, very powerful. Dana, thank you so much for the opportunity to share your story. I mean, it's
inspirational. Thank you so much.
No, guys, thanks for having it. It was so easy, too easy.
You've just set me up for a very deep and meaningful weekend, let me tell you. a lot of introspection.
You know what else? Like, again, the perspective thing, like show your daughter the befores and afters of my images. Like it's crazy. I've had heaps of like my supporters and stuff sent like right into me. Like I showed my daughter, blah, blah, blah. And they just thought you were so cool and blah. Just give her reality. That's reality. Not what we're seeing.
You are cool and a role model. And I think in today's world, that's, that for whatever reason, the universe has delivered you as this gift to young women and young men, everyone, as to what resilience really looks like and how to see life beyond yourself, more than just ourselves.
Thank you. That's really nice. Thanks.
Cool, Dana. Thanks so much, Shawnee. Thanks again, mate. You got any closing ones, or are you as flabbergasted as I am?
I've just gobsmacked, and as I say, the amount of grit and determination and just self-leadership and drive, just inspirational, and really, really humbled to have you on the show today. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
And that wraps up another episode of The Few. Thank you to our partners, Afterburner, for team building, development and alignment. We understand now how important it is to have the right people around you. Get them on board with where you want to go. Momentum Media, the largest industry publisher in the country, connecting your business to the Australian community. ICMI, Australia's premier speaker bureau, representing the few that do fulfill their life's purpose. And finally, Sean's Inner Circle, the business coaching organisation for small and medium enterprises looking to make that next step. Thanks again for listening in and downloading today. Please leave a review on whatever platform you are currently listening to this podcast, and reach out to our partners who can help you make the transition to the few.
Thanks, Dana. Have a lovely weekend. Really appreciate you coming in again.
Thanks. You. Bye, guys.
See ya.